Merry Meet, Annie here, and Ernie, of course. Hello, Erns. I mentioned my book of the land in the video that I was doing before this one. So while I had it out, I wanted to make sure that I was sharing it because I am so overdue sharing it with a couple of you. And Ro, I know you particularly. We had talked about it when I was putting it together. The Book of the Land that I have always had as part of my practice is nothing more than a book of pictures. I have had a Book of the Land all the years of my practice. It was a requirement with my first teacher that we did this. In those days, we didn't have too many sources. I remember a lot of my pictures came from magazines and the National Enquirer. And we were sent off to fill a 3-ring binder with pictures that reflected all different kinds of personalities of the land and seasons. And our first book, in the first year, we put together in order of the season that the picture represented. Actually, it was the first 6 months of the year that we did that. And we thought that's what it was supposed to be, was that it is a reflection and a meditation on the seasons of the year. And then what happened is at the end of the 6 months, our priest told us to take all of our pictures out, spread them all around the floor in front of us, and divide them according to the element that it felt they represented, how it felt to us. And sorry about the reflection. I have not been able to figure out how to do this without getting the silly reflections on the pictures. So we took everything out of our book, which we had put together so carefully by the season, and he had us do it according to the element they represented. And we spent the next 6 months working with our book based on the element that it represented. And then at the end of that, after a year of study of the elements, the instruction we received was to put them in our book in no particular order, which is indeed how the pictures in my book are currently in my book, in no particular order. Every now and then I actually take them out and jumble them up to get them in a different order. So why would one have a book of the land? First, we were studying the seasons and the flow of the seasons and the personality of the seasons, and we're using our book as a way to further explore those outside of what we knew, where we lived. They were an exercise in creative visualization. We were to put ourselves in the places that were in our book and fully experience what it would be like to be in those places. So first and foremost, they were actually part of our early training on visualization. And for me, was a very important part of my learning to hold visualization and eventually the powers of meditation very strongly in my mind. It gave me a focus, it gave me something to step into, to experience something outside of the physical world that I may have been in at that moment. We use them, of course, to connect to the power of the season and of the individual elements of the season. I have used those books constantly in the years since, very often in meditation, since I have a difficult time getting to a quiet place when it comes to meditation. I would open one of my books. I do this constantly. I would open one of my books to any page, and then I would visit the place that my book opened to me, presented to me as possibility. I still do that to this day. If I cannot get to a quiet place in meditation, I grab one of my 2 Book of the Years and I go there. I go wherever the book opens to. Always quiets me down, gets me out of the here and now. They are always at hand and nearby for me to grab when I need them. Now, I will sometimes go through the books and get certain pictures that I want that energy to imbue the work that I am doing. I may want pictures that focus on water. Here's a powerful one for water, and that would turn the page to water. stillness, the power of thunder and lightning or snow, or the beautiful power of the dry places, a desert, a high desert, peaceful energy of the ocean. Literally take all of this energy in the picture and imbue my magic with it. So I do take things out and work on them on an individual basis when I want the energy from a certain thing. This one here would bring me to a place of such total calmness. This one to a place of settling in and settling down. So using the power of the energy in the picture as part of my magical workings. Literally, I'll take these pictures out and put them on my altar if I want to work with that particular energy. Out of season, it's amazing to work with some of these pictures that don't reflect the here and the now. Gets our brains very much into a place not of the here and now. And then we have something like this, which is going to before long be reflecting the here and the now. So where did I get these pictures? I bought used books, all kinds of places, whether online cheap, whether at library sales or flea markets. Yes, you might say I bought books and then tore them into pieces and maybe disrespected them in that sense. However, I did look at the books first to make sure that I wanted lots of the pictures that were in them so that their beauty lives on forever in a way that I can constantly use it and be inspired by it. I have 2 of these books. These are new to me. My original books became so ratty that I was not able to work with them anymore. The colors had faded. They were literally tearing and falling apart. There's a wonderful one for this season. And the one on the opposite side of the page with a storm approaching. Such a beautiful meditation you could do around that. So what I did is there was a sale on notebooks, scrapbooks, at the local craft store. And I bought the 12 by 12 inserts and the plastic sleeves. I use the plastic sleeves because I will put these on my altar and they will be full of all kinds of things and there will be wax and there's reasons I want to protect them. Since my first book lasted almost 30 years, you can tell that it works when you put them in the plastic sleeves. And then I had the meditative process. It took a couple of months to cut the pictures out, focusing on them, finding the mat I wanted to put them on, the color that complemented them of the colors that I had, and then putting them in the book. And like I said, I do have 2 of these books because I had an abundance of picture books and beautiful books that I was able to get at a very reasonable price and was able to spend, I must have worked on these for 2 months and I enjoyed every moment. They come out regularly in my practice as a calming and a centering and a focus tool and a tool for working with the elements. They take me places I will never be in actuality. But over time, you get to know these places as if they were in your backyard. This is a great meditative tool for those of you who are starting a practice and wanting to work with focus, calmness, devotion to a task, working with the elements, working with the land, developing a relationship to the feeling for the power of the land and all the things that it can bring to you, indeed the power of the elements. So if you're seeing this, you know why at the end of my A Moment on the Wheel poems, I can't resist putting in a picture that feels like the poem that I've just read. So with apologies for those of you who have wondered what my Book of the Land is, this is some insight into one of the 2 that I have put together. The other book that our priest had us put together that first year was a book of faces. I no longer have my book of faces. I actually gave it to a friend who was dying from cancer, and she used it as a meditative tool. And out of respect for it having been that to her, we returned it to the earth after she passed. But after we did all this, we were studying about the importance of who we were within all of this. The tribe, our kinfolk who are human, and how we are connected to that and should never distance ourselves from that. And what we did is we put together a book of faces where we wanted to collect all of the different personalities and people and ethnic groups, all the color of who we were. I still remember the joy of going through that one. The process of honoring the vastness and the variety of humanity, as we had just really spent a lot of time studying the vastness of the world of nature. That became, for the women in our circle, in our learning circle at that time, then a lesson for us in who the God might be to us. Some of us, like myself, were struggling with, I had come from goddess-centered spirituality and just wasn't sure about who the God was going to be to me. I felt the need for balance and for his presence in my life, but I wasn't sure what he was going to be to me. And after we put together this book, and unbeknownst to us, it was part of what our priest was having us do it for, we celebrated humanity and tribe and how we are connected to so many people and places and times that are part of the human experience. And then when we were done, he had the women take out all the pictures of the men that they had collected, and the men take out all the pictures of the women that they had collected. We had been told from the beginning that there should be all ages and both men and women. And we were sent off to study the pictures that we had collected. And in all honesty, that was the beginning of my intimate relationship with the God of the Wicca. What men were in all their form and variety and their beauty and their strength and their weaknesses. So we had the book of the land, and the other one, and you can tell it was a sign of the times. It was the 70s. It was the 70s. The sign of the times when none of us thought it was odd that the other book was called the Book of Man. So in my mind, it will forever be something like that, the Book of Man. Today, I guess we'd have to name it the Book of People or Persons or something, but in those days, there was nothing wrong with saying the Book of Man, and no one would get offended. And that was my first step in truly bonding with what the male divine might be. This might be something that you'll want to consider if you're struggling as a man with understanding and embracing all the things that the woman as the divine might be, which is truly nothing more than the divine expansion of who we women are in reality. And for the women, they may find it is a way to further explore what could the male divine be to them. It was a very powerful part of the learning process for me. Someday I'm going to get the urge, I'm sure, to take on another Book of Man. But this year's project was to recreate the Book of the Land. I hope you've enjoyed this, and it might inspire you to take on something similar. I wish you mirth and reverence. Mary Part.